Healios is a company that was formed in 2011 from the IP that was generated at the Riken Institute in Japan. With that, there was a movement from there where we accelerated, and in 2015 we went public on the Mother's Board in Japan. Since that time, we have done very well, and we will walk through that overall today. But to picture where our company is a $1 billion market cap on the Japanese market. We are largely owned by our original founder. He still maintains about 58% of our company. Most people who have been around the industry know Hardy Kajimoto very well. And we think that we are really at the forefront of the cell therapy industry on the next generation around the iPS field. Okay. Starting point. We took a great advantage of the Japanese new structure. Everyone knew that the Japan regulatory authority was going to change. In 2013, it became apparent after the introduction of Dr. Yamanaka's groundbreaking IP information that the Japanese market would again change to take advantage of this. So with the Japanese market change and the beginning of this rapid move to moving products to the forward very quickly, we saw an opportunity to move overall forward quickly. And we did that through a multiple-pronged strategy. The first strategy was really around filling out our pipeline in the short term. How did we do that? We acquired technology from the US, from Athersys, where we took on indications in Japan. With that driving them into Japan, we were able to move forward very quickly and have phase 3 products right from the start. These will bring our company forward while we develop the back pipeline, which is in the phase 1, which is our RPE cells. And then we have a number of products moving into IND over the next 2 years. For a company that is only 100 people, this is a very robust and a very big pipeline, and we continue to drive this forward at a very manageable cost. I won't go through this to a great extent. I'm sure you've all seen Gill do his presentation on the Athersys products, but I want to show you what it means when you take it into the Japanese market. The Athersys was able to show that in stroke, when you look at patients within the 36-hour window, that these patients were effectively treated not only at an endpoint of 3 months, but more importantly, at 1 year, they were statistically significantly better and it continued to prove out to that 1 year. This was done with a relatively small trial, but what we were able to do is go to the PMDA and say, hey, for the 110 active and 110 placebo, we were able to get a full approval with a rapid evaluation from the PMDA. Currently, we have 40 sites enrolling in this trial. We're enrolling on a rapid pace at this point. We expect to have full enrollment sometime in middle of 2020. It takes a 1 year follow-up, of course, but we will be able to start doing rolling submission while we're waiting for the data to come out. We show that we can be to the market much quicker than any company that can do this in the United States or Europe. So we can take that data then and roll it back to our partners like Athersys, and they get additional safety and additional efficacy trial that they can use today to support their process going forward. How big a market is this? If you look at just the stroke market within that 36-hour window, 62,000 patients in Japan. For a cell therapy product where we're producing large amounts of MAPC cells, this is a significant market. We believe that we can get a reimbursement rate well over $100,000, and we will be able to generate a great deal of revenue just off this first indication, which is on stroke. More importantly is the ARDS trial. This is acute respiratory distress syndrome. This was a trial, again, done by Athersys. They did a 30-patient trial. Of that 30-patient trial, they were able to show that multistem showed a trend in both mortality, positive trend in mortality, positive trend in ventilator-free days, and a positive trend in intensive care unit days decrease. Notice that it is 20 actives and 10 placebo. When we went to the PMDA, we showed them the data. We said, we believe that we can show statistical significance, a statistical trend going forward with the same population. So what we said was, we're going to do 20 active, 10 standard of care. It's open label, so we can actually break it at any point if we're going in a positive trend. And we can continue to move this forward. We just, I think it was announced by Gill the other day, we had our first patient enrollment this past week. We have a number of sites that are up and running. We believe this trial will end very shortly into either the end of this year or early into next year in the enrollment. And this is only a 30-day window. So we can get all of our data very quickly. We believe that this one may actually jump ahead of stroke for first approval. Again, what we took was, we took a subpopulation, which we think is very important in Japan. If you look at the total number of ARDS patients in Japan, it's about 12,000 patients. A third of those are related to pneumonia, secondary to pneumonia. This is a very elderly population in Japan. The secondary pneumonia is fairly high, and we saw this as an opportunity to take an indication with about 4,000 patients that we believe we can decrease mortality, decrease morbidity, and actually save costs to the market. This is a very manageable number of doses to produce, and we can bring this to the market relatively quickly. That will allow us to jump into our next wave. This is where the first of those indications, the iPS cells, is really coming forward. RPE was started, again, we talked about the original Recon. The RPE cells are working forward. We have multiple processes going forward. We're looking at everything from suspensions to sheets that can be cryopreserved to cells that for delivery. And we have a number of other related cells that have not been released that we're working with in this area. And we see that the eye field is a very large indication that we will develop as an overall platform for the company. Some of our newest things that we're working on that will be driven from the iPS cells is really, it's a 3D organs generation system. I'm using liver as an example here, but it could be other indications. This is coming from a guy who came from manufacturing, one of the more complex systems that you'll ever see. We will take an iPS cell, drive it down to, for this indication, a hepatocyte, freeze that bank. We'll take a vascular cell, bring it down, freeze it as a bank, and bring down a MSC and freeze it as a bank. From there, we can take these and co-culture them for anywhere from 5 to 7 days and produce an organ bud. Why are these so important? Everyone has tried to put hepatocytes in and to treat hepatic diseases. Doesn't really work very well. What this does is it works very well because what we're seeing is that these cells are, because of the vascular system, are ready and can be implanted and stay alive in the system. We have done animal trials at this point. We can show that in animal trials where you would see a hepatocytes fall off very quickly. You can actually see in a rodent model that these cells using these vascularized hepatocyte buds, you can implant them in usually a large vascularized system like a thigh muscle. They will function as little livers and go forward. This is fairly far out. It's fairly complex, but we think this is where the future is going to be. And this is particularly important, and I'll talk about this, is our next generation. We are working with first generation iPS. The next step we are taking is we are like everyone else, is moving to a immunoprivileged iPS cell. Once we have an immunoprivileged iPS cell, we can put it into this system. We're expecting to have it into our animal models next year. We will be able to take a system that you won't have to immunosuppress and leave these cells in place. We think that this will be the next step and really drive iPS cells to the next level and make the company even more successful. Very quickly, just financially, just to give you a perspective of where Healios is. Healios basically spends about $40 million in 2017 and approximately $40 million in 2018. This past year, we also made an investment in our partner Athersys for about another $20 million. So overall, we've been flat year over year in spending. We're running multiple clinical trials, we're doing multiple development programs, and we're doing it at a cost-efficient basis. If you look at, at the start of 2017, we had $170 million in cash and equivalents. We were at the end of 2018, we were down to 111. Like I said, 40 million is spending and another 20 million in investment. And we think that this will trend in about correct for the upcoming years. Again, we are very careful in our spending and we drive these things forward very carefully. This comes back to our overall model. How do we look at things? We see that in a short time, we're using the Japan regulatory system to move Healios to the forefront into a profitable company in a very quick basis. With approvals projected in 2021 or 2022, we will be profitable shortly after that. We can take this then and drive to our next technologies and move those forward and take that revenue stream to make the next generation, which is the genetically modified iPS. From there, we can take and move that into an organ bud. And with all this, we've focused on one thing. It's why I came to this company a year ago. We focus on, every time, robust manufacturing systems, cost-effective manufacturing systems, and ones that we can make profit on going forward. So our focus is not only the science, but it's operational delivery. And with that, we can expand off these cells into the next generation, whether it be liver buds or hepatocyte buds or immuno-oncology, where we can make large amounts of immunoprivileged cells and drive it to the market going forward. With that, I would thank you for your time.